the Brisbane Roar soccer franchise. The achievements and success of the Brisbane Roar soccer team under the new management of Ange Postecoglou and the clear differentiation of a leader and a manager to compel a soccer team to consecutive title victories, and how businesses could learn and improve through implementation of this team's effective strategies. These events took place in the Hyundai A-League seasons from 2009 to 2012. Branching the entirety of Australia in the Hyundai A-League, but centred at the club's home ground of Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Postecoglou achieved this through the redevelopment of the team's playing style, which consisted of an attacking, possession-based style of football. He also stressed a full-time training routine so that his players were at the peak of their performance.
The broad outline of relating theories and topics from a business management perspective. Chapter 7. Information Decision Making. Postecoglou utilised his previous experience playing in soccer teams to make informed decisions for his leading and management skills. Chapter 9. Strategic Management. The use of SWOT analysis to highlight the best and worst attributes of a sporting team, with correlation into an organisation. Chapter 10. Organising. The organisation of the sporting teams and workplaces to fit a particular model. Chapter 11. Controlling. The necessity to implement an effective plan and then organising, leading and controlling the relative inputs to see these plans implemented. Chapter 17. Teams and Teamwork. The execution of a strategy requires successful team building supported by effectual communication and acceptance of diverse characteristics and personalities. Chapter 18. Leading and Management Change. The flow between a change in management and how to best implement the new and innovative ideas or concepts of management into a sporting team or workplace. Leading and managing change. Postecoglou was forced to deal with a number of issues standing in the way of his effective leadership and his ability to manage the changes he wanted to employ. His new training and game plans were not popular with all players, and he was forced to effectively negate their opposition to his plans to innovate the team in ways he wanted. In turn, he also needed to gain the respect and cooperation of his players for the changes he wishes to employ, as well as enforce an effective implementation of his strategies. He faced the issue of refreezing his methods to ensure his own authority in respect to leadership, as well as a long-term implementation of his vision. Finally, he was faced with the having to continuously push and innovate upon his vision to get the most effective outcomes of his strategy to gain the competitive edge over numerous competitors.
Strategic Management. Postecoglou was also forced to deal with a number of issues regarding strategic management. The impact of the previous manager's dismissal due to drink-driving charges had impacted the perception of Brisbane Roar and relegated the community's perceptions of the club. The sudden change of management had also endangered their ability to meet their strategic objectives, and Postecoglou needed to develop a new plan of action for the club. He needed to assess the competition and implement a playing strategy to overcome the competition faced by other teams. Such a task involved upholding and surpassing the results the Roar had previously achieved, as well as targeting areas that the club lacked strength in, such as community engagement. Meeting the expectations of relevant stakeholders through these actions, such as customers, shareholders, employees, the sponsors, and the wider community, was also an important step in solidifying the strategic process. In turn, he would need to be open to evaluation of his efforts, so as to improve on the strategy's effectiveness.
Postecoglou faced certain challenges surrounding the management of his players with regards to the issue of teams and teamwork. In his role as an external coach, he would need to develop an effective communication strategy through his team to implement his wishes as a manager. He would also need to gratify and fulfill a diverse team of players with different characteristics and ways of thinking. He also faced the issue of training his team in a way that enabled their physical condition to cope with the execution of his new style of play, to synergise with each other for maximum output and also overcome substantial conflict over his recommended changes. To maintain team cohesion, he would need to deploy and encourage formal and informal groups within the team respectively. As a cross-functional team, it was Postecoglou's responsibility to best utilise the individual talents of each team member, while also enabling them to function within the team's game plan. Finally, to ensure the success of his game plan, For the club, he had to maintain team morale despite the first year of struggle the franchise endured whilst he was developing and restructuring his team.
Leading and managing change. The conceptual origins of leading and managing change is a driving force for continuous innovation with respect to the challenges a manager must face when leading an organisation through new management practices. Some challenges may include the complexity of the change may inhibit the ongoing evolution of the intended goals, uncertainty of the outcomes of change, and stagnation through previous practices and management implementation. The continuous need for innovation should motivate managers to self-improvement, distancing themselves from the status quo or risk being replaced. Gary Hamel outlines recurring processes of innovation, cycling through the creation of ideas, experimentation, the feasibility, and lastly the final application. Postecoglou manages change to this Brisbane Raw team unknowingly through Hamel's processes of continued innovation. Businesses would follow a more internal process of innovation from their management skills to the products they sell. Change strategy. Rational persuasion is the means of providing information to back up the reasoning for change to an organisation, so all levels of the organisation may understand the purpose of this change. Postecoglou can be seen as a prime example of rational persuasion, utilising the strategies of rational persuasion to quickly and effectively change the mindset of his team to conform to his ideals. Keaton H. Mader found that clear and concise goals in relation to the manager's change was the most effective means of implementation of rational persuasion strategies. This allowed him to make swift changes to the foundation level, even asking players to move closer to the training grounds and transform soccer into a full-time job with very little effort. The utilisation of top-down method of management change is an autocratic management style implemented throughout the majority of organisations. This method comes with major benefits: clear and concise goals set by lead managers and strong motivation for managers and workers. This can have negative connotations towards the mid and lower levels of the organisation if they do not agree with the management changes. The negatives are rebellion against managers and short-term loss towards long-term gain. A clear advantage of top-down management is the replacement of individuals who do not agree with the changes to allow for a smooth transition of management as well as little resistance as possible. Management change can follow a structured transition with difficulties in unfreezing management practices followed by a period of unknown repercussions and resolutions, resulting in either a breakdown of the organisation as a whole or the transgression into the desired management changes.
Strategic management. Strategic management is the process of formulating and implementing strategies to accomplish long-term goals and sustain a competitive advantage. Strategic management is born from markets and organisations that have a stagnant growth and competitive environment, allowing them to progress further in an aggressive manner against competition. Most organisations define their reasoning for these strategic management decisions as goals focused at increasing the value of the company. Using organisational resources with a specific strategic intent to sustain a competitive advantage by directing resources to a unified goal. Organisational strategy is derived from the consistency and context of several decisions which aim to satisfy a similar objective. Strategic management process involves strategy formulation and implementation. Strategic formulation includes the analysis of current objectives and goals, the assessment of internal and external environments, such as the nature of market and the organisational resources, and finally, the selection of new strategies based on the revision of the original objectives. Strategic implementation involves summoning organisational resources to initiate new strategies, and upon being put in place, re-evaluating and renewing the strategic management process.
The concept of a dictation-orientated workplace is seldom utilised in the modern contemporary business structure. Alternatively, organisations progress by developing teamwork strategies to increase innovation and efficiency in an ever-changing globalised market. Teamwork provides opportunities for individuals to satisfy personal needs within the workplace and the organisation as a whole to excel in their fields and markets. Synergy relates to the concept of a team becoming worth more as a whole than the sum of its individual parts. This concept was essential for Postecoglou in implementing his new standard of play. By using the collective resources of a team, it results in the achievement of goals and objectives that individually would not have been possible. The benefits of teams that achieve synergy also apply significantly to individuals within the team. The positive nature of teamwork can affect an individual's behaviour and attitudes in a way that helps them satisfy personal and work-related needs which would not usually be met without this exposure of working within a supportive team. The creation of formal groups and the occurrence of informal groups serve as important functions in every organisation. Formal groups are set in place to provide a specific purpose for the organisation and can often be the driver for the formation of informal groups. Informal groups are not assigned but occur naturally through the association of formal team members. They also serve the organisation in a way that co-workers band together either in interest, friendship or support groups which all essentially operate to aid other members in daily work-related activities. The establishment of an effective team is determined by its ability to maintain high levels of group performance and individual satisfaction. For an effective team to achieve this status, they must incorporate the functions of group inputs, group process, and team diversity. The nature of tasks largely determines the inputs that are required from each group member. For teams to function cohesively, they must share the workload equally, ensuring each member is committed to fulfilling his or her duties. The process of groups then focuses on how well the individual members of the team collaborate their inputs to best satisfy the task at hand. Finally, team diversity stipulates the different qualities individuals can bring to the group in a positive fashion. However, diversity can also affect the team negatively by initiating friction and disagreements between members. Team building revolves around the concepts of identifying an issue that an organisation faces, gathering data with which we reveal the most effective and efficient way to control this problem, developing and implementing an action plan, and finally evaluating the process to determine how it can help the organisation overcome future issues of a similar nature. Team building in the context of a high-performance sporting team is accessed mainly through team meetings amongst full squads and coaching staff to assess the level of functionality of a team regarding specific performance and strategic objectives. High-performance teams generally share common characteristics, e.g. shared elevated goals, which require strong, principled leadership. Effective team leadership has the ability to harness the full capabilities of a team. The leader establishes a clear vision for the future of the team and finds the most effective ways of sharing that vision with their team to inspire them to want to achieve the same goal. It is in that self-determination which helps the team leader to create change and unleash the talent of individuals in their team.
Sporting teams are organisations with a dynamic management system and complex goals. Sporting team coaches and managers put substantial emphasis on playing well. There are many aspects within a sports team. These aspects include entrepreneurial knowledge, marketing knowledge, human resources knowledge, accounting knowledge, and lastly, financial knowledge. Chapter 9, Strategic Management. Employ a SWOT analysis to determine the strengths and weaknesses within the team. Due to the sudden change in management, a SWOT analysis is the most sensible first step to identify the key strengths and weaknesses within the team. A SWOT analysis is the identification of the internal and external strengths and weaknesses within an organisation. The SWOT analysis begins with a systematic evaluation of the organisation's structure and resources, with a primary goal to identify major strengths that the organisation has over other organisations. A SWOT analysis will assist in formally evaluating team and individual performance alike. Through careful analysation, weaknesses and strengths will be determined within the key goal to promote individual self-awareness and ultimately self-improvement to create a stronger team. Postacoglu's strategy implementation follows these ideals entirely to make the Brisbane Roar brand an equal of all the others, an idea business could most definitely learn from. Chapter 18, Leading and Managing Change. Implementation of a top-down change leadership strategy. In Postacoglu's undertaking to re-engineer the team, he removed some individuals who didn't agree with his planned change. This is a particularly brutal and demanding process and is not applicable to all businesses. However, businesses willing to undergo short-term losses and a possibility of widening the short-term performance gap for a long-term vision can undergo substantial innovation in a relatively pain-free fashion once the team necessary to achieve these goals is developed. However, Postacoglu's experiences demonstrates that unplanned change regarding available players is not necessarily a bad thing, particularly regarding that generated through interpersonal conflict. Their self-enforced absence frees up time that would be spent either converting or removing others, quickening the unfreezing stage of change implementation due to less resistance from within the organisation. This time could also be better spent looking for individuals who either agree with or have the capacity to embrace the desired innovation and its rigours. Such actions benefits the refreezing stage, as the business develops greater stability due to more ingrained support. Postacoglu's experiences encourage businesses to accept unplanned change on the path to innovation, and if employed correctly, such a process as seen through the case study of Brisbane Raw would be of great help to a business towards integrating change within the firm and having the changes refreeze. Chapter 17, Teams and Teamwork. Selecting the most appropriate players who possess the required skills and will work well with the rest of the team. With Postacoglu's statement as manager, he had envisioned a new play style that would surely bring victory to the Brisbane Raw team. Unfortunately, drastic changes had to be made. To achieve this goal, the individual players must be expected to be able to work as a team and to adopt the new play style. To ensure the requirements are met, it is important to ensure the recruitment of players who will meld well with the new implemented play style and have good relations with the pre-existing players. Not only is individual skill an important aspect of teamwork, but the individual must have the willingness to adhere to the rules of conduct, be motivated towards the newfound change, and most importantly, work with the rest of the team to achieve a common goal. Ultimately, once all requirements are met, the players will be able to collectively and individually think and act in perfect synergy.
The recommended action plan for strategic management is as follows. The task is to conduct a SWOT analysis, evaluate the data gathered and improve the franchise based on that data. In the first 12 months, it would be the responsibility of the club management to carry out this task. However, in the future period of 1 to 5 years, the responsibility is the organisation's as a whole to improve. The required resources for the duration of the task are simply HR, and although the deadlines for this task are not crucial for its success, it is important for HR to remain in touch within the time frame given. As for leading in management change, the action plan is as follows. Using HR as its only resource, the responsibility to carry out the tasks lies solely on the club management. In the short term, management must implement a top-down leadership strategy, which should be done immediately and followed up on in the medium and long terms by restructuring employees and encouraging the affected employees to work with the new structures to aid the strategy's development. These last two tasks in the action plan have no deadline and are a continuous function of the action plan. This is the action plan for teams and teamwork. Once again, only using the resources of the club's HR, the tasks within the action plan are to be performed on a continuous basis. The responsibility of this action plan lay with the coaching staff in the short term to recruit players based on their preferred playing style. In the medium term, it is the coaching and players' responsibility to meld the team's play style to suit the desired outcomes. And finally, it also becomes management's responsibility to continue to reinforce their style of play in the sense of an entire club to promote the importance of teamwork further.